Welcome back to edit a Vivaldi Violin Concerto every day with me, Adrian Chandler, Artistic Director of La Serenissima, in order that we raise awareness of our musicians who have lost all their work because of COVID-19. I left you on Friday having edited RV 386 Concerto in B minor. What a cracking piece that was. I think it's going to have an AID rating of 9, that one. I think we had 5 cracking concertos last week, I seem to remember. This week, I think I'm just going to, because I think I've edited something like 30 odd violin concertos on the trot now. So I think we're going to take a little bit of a break from the fiddle concerto this week and just sort of have a bit of a dot about some other concertos by Vivaldi. The idea for this came from Mr. Ian Pollock, who asked us to, if we could have a look at the funeral concerto, the Concerto Funebre. This is the manuscript. Concerto Funebre con hautbois, sordini with muted oboe and salmoe. This is Chalumeau e viole all'inglese. These are what Vivaldi calls violas all'inglese, but are in actual fact just viols. In this piece, there are 3 of them, 2 treble viols and 1 bass viol. And then, very interesting here, tutti I violini e violetti sordini non però il violino principale, which means all the violins and violas muted apart from the soloist. And there's one other very, very obvious place that springs to mind with exactly this kind of string setup, which is the last movement of Spring, where Vivaldi asks all the violins and violas to wear mutes, but not the solo violinist. And interestingly, nothing about the bass line donning mutes either. You may be wondering why Vivaldi has scored a concerto for such a strange group of instruments. Personally, I think this has something to do with the story or the legend of the 3 quick and the 3 dead. This was a sort of moralistic tale that became popular. Actually started in India and then made its way westwards through Islam and into Western society, sort of around about the 13th century. But the story, by the time the story gets to Europe, the story goes along the lines of the fact that there are 3 princes, or sometimes they're noblemen, or sometimes there are even clergy members amongst the group as well. But there are certainly 3 sort of high-born individuals that go hunting one day, and they become lost in the hunt. And whilst they're lost, they meet 3 cadavers, 3 corpses. And the corpses, depends on which sort of version of the story you look at, but the corpses tell the young men to repent of their ways, because they will, everybody will, no matter how highborn you are now, when you're dead, you're as dead as the next bloke. So it's basically they're asking the men to repent. And in this concerto, it's very interesting. You have the solo violin here, you have the Chalumeau here, solo Chalumeau, and the solo oboe. And I think that the violin, the Chalumeau, and the oboe are the 3 quick, the 3 living men. And then you have the group of cadavers down here, the violas all'inglese. The viol and the trombone had been associated with the underworld for a very, very, very long time. In fact, with the trombone even, I mean, Mozart was still using it for its deathly connotations in the graveyard scene in Don Giovanni. You know, the composers knew all about this. And Vivaldi is also incredibly well versed in what instrument is required for whichever symbolism he needs to be writing about. For instance, I mean, even if you look at the seasons, the sonnets of the seasons are stuffed full of symbolism. For instance, why does he use a dog in the slow movement of spring. It's not because he fancies having somebody that can bark a lot. It's because dog is the attribute of melancholy, etc., etc. Anyway, so here are your cadavers, and there are your three princes at the top. It's a most amazing piece with a very incredibly original selection of sound, colours and timbres. Here is a little bit of the opening movement. Anyway, that gives you the idea. This movement is actually a reworking of the Symphonia to the Execution scene right at the end of Tito Manlio from I think it was 1719. The bit where Manlio is about to be executed by his father, and there's a very solemn Symphonia with muted trumpets, muffled drums. It was customary at executions, if there would be drums, that they would be covered in black cloth and muted strings. But he's obviously, if you're going to have an execution, why not use it for a funeral concerto as well? Save yourself the bother. But then you get the most beautiful fast movement, allegro poco poco, Vivaldi calls it. Let me just find a bit for you. Let's go from here. It's just writing like this, absolutely sublime, and I have no idea why Vivaldi never was given a proper church job. He should have been. He was just a genius. And then you have a fugue to finish off, which is quite uplifting, really. If the guy's died, possibly Pietro Gruo, who was a Maestro di Cappella at the Pietà, that this was written for. But it's a very optimistic view of death. It's very, very Vivaldian. Let me find. There's a colossal pedal note. So there you go, just got to put the figures in, that's it. Do you know what? I think this gets a 10 for me. Aid rating of a 10. Tomorrow, I think we're going to have a look at the single movement concerto for 2 violins, 2 organs and 2 orchestras. See you then. Thanks.